We are back um, with another video live stream of Greek mythology, and we already talked about Cerberus, who was the Greek hellhound of Hades. Then we talked about Zeus and Poseidon, and now we're going to officially talk about Hades. Hades is the Greek god of the underworld. Um, he's similar to Satan. He has all the same powers as Satan. Um, Satan, if you don't know, is in the Bible for people that actually believe in that fairy tale crap. Um, But anyway, I find Greek mythology to be more fascinating. Anyway, Hades um, is ancient Greek. In the ancient Greek religion and mythology, he is the god of the dead and king of the underworld, with which his name has become synonymous. Um, Hades was the oldest son of Kronos and Rhea, although this also made him the last son to be regurgitated by his father. But he and his brothers Zeus and Poseidon defeated their father's generation of gods, the Titans. Um, and claimed joint rulership over the cosmos. Now Hades received the underworld, Zeus received the sky, and Poseidon received the sea. Um, Now with the solid Earth along the province of Gaia, available to all three of them concurrently. But in artistic depictions, Hades is typically portrayed holding a bident and wearing his helmet Cerberus, his three-headed guard dog of the underworld standing at his side, and you can see that right here. Um, There's Hades and his holding his little bident, and then with the little helm over his head, and then with Cerberus right next to him, the three-headed hellhound dog. Um, Now, Roman era mythographers eventually equated the Etruscan god Aida and the Roman gods Dispater and Orcus with Hades and merged all these figures into Pluto, which is a Latinization of Pluton, which is ancient Greek, and itself is a euphemistic title meaning the rich one, often given to Hades. Um, Now, the origin of how Hades' name came to be is uncertain, but it has generally been seen as meaning the unseen one since antiquity. Um, Before we go further in, um, for anybody that tunes in, make sure to leave a comment in the live stream. Let me know what you guys are thinking. Also, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you want more videos like this, and we're gonna put out as many as we can. So I'm hoping for the people that do enjoy Greek mythology. I'm hoping you guys are enjoying these videos. Um, anyway, now as I was saying, the origin of Hades' name is uncertain. Nobody knows how it came to be, but it's been generally been seen as meaning the unseen one since antiquity. An extensive Tommy, hi. Um, so An extensive section of Plato's dialogue, the Cratylus, is devoted to the etymology of the god's name, in which Socrates is arguing over a folk etymology not from unseen, but from his knowledge. Um, but of all noble things, modern linguists have proposed the Proto-Greek meaning unseen. Now, the earliest attested form is Hades, which lacks the proposed digamma. Martin Litchfield West argues instead for an original meaning of the one who presides over meeting up from the universality of death. In Homeric Greek, he was known as Hades, but other poetic variations of the name include Ada, Aeneas, and the infected forms Ados, or Adai, and Ada. These reconstructed nominative case, Ace, is however not attested. Now, the name as it came to be known in classical times was Hades, and later the iota became silent, then a subscript marking, and finally omitted entirely. And here's some parts of the photos you can see of him. You can see this is Hades and Persephone, which is supposed to be his wife. And then you got this where Theseus slays the Minotaur under the gaze of Athena. Eventually next week I'll do a video on either Achilles, the Greek war hero, or either the Minotaur, whichever one I decide to do, and more than likely I'll get a lot of them. Now, Perhaps from the fear of pronouncing his name around the 5th century BC, the Greeks started referring to Hades as Pluton, with the root meaning wealthy. And considering that from the adobe below, i.e., the soil, comes riches, e.g., like fertile crops, metals, and so on. Now, Pluton became the Roman god who both rules the underworld and distributed riches from below. This deity was a mixture of the Greek god Hades and the Eleusinian icon Plutos. Um, and from this, he received a priestess, which was not previously practiced in Greece. Um, more elaborate names. Um, Cambiar just joined. Hi. Um, Now, more elaborate names of the same genre were Plutotis, or if I'm not saying that right, I don't know. Um, and it means giver of wealth. Now, the epithets of Hades include um, a, Agasander and Agasalos. I'm not for sure if I'm saying those right. Um, these mean both from a go, carry or fetch, and and an error means man, or laos meaning men or people. Um, and they described Hades as the god who carries all away. Now Nicander uses the form Hegesilius. I'm not sure if I'm saying that one right. He was also referred to a Zeus type person, meaning the Zeus of the underworld, by those avoiding his actual name, as he had complete control over the underworld. Now, in Greek mythology, Hades is the god of the Greek underworld who was the firstborn of the Titans Kronos and Rhea. He had three older sisters, Hestia, Demeter, and Hera, as well as a younger brother, Poseidon, all of whom had been swallowed by their father as soon as they were born. Now Zeus was the youngest child, and through the machinations of their mother, Rhea, he was the only one that had escaped his fate. Um, Upon reaching adulthood, Zeus managed to force his father to disgorge his siblings, and after their release, the six younger gods, along with allies that they managed to gather, challenged the elder gods for power to the Titan Titanmachy, which was a divine war. Now the war lasted for 10 years, just like with the Trojan War. Um, now following the and it ended with the victory of the younger gods. Now following their victory, according to a single famous passage in the Iliad, Hades and his two brothers Poseidon and Zeus drew lots for realms. Thank you, Cambiar. No, Hades and his two brothers Poseidon and Zeus drew lots. Like I was saying, Zeus inherited the sky, Poseidon the sea, and Hades the underworld. Zombie, hi. I think I know you were here last week. Thanks for coming back. Now, as I said, Zeus received the sky, Poseidon received the sea, and Hades received the underworld, the unseen realm to which the souls of the dead go upon leaving the world, as well as any and all things beneath the earth. Yeah. Now, Hades obtained his wife and queen Persephone through abduction at the behest of Zeus. Um, Now, the myth is the most important one that Hades takes part in. It also concocted the Eleusinian mysteries with the Olympian pantheon, particularly as represented in the Homeric hymn to Demeter, which is the oldest story of the abduction, and most likely it dates back to the beginning of the 6th century BC. Now, Helios told the grieving Demeter that Hades was not an unworthy groom or son-in-law, but given his status among the gods as her own brother and king on his own right. Now, this is the Homeric hymn to Demeter, page 82 to 86 in the Homer's Iliad, which I have in the book. But goddess, give up your strong grief. Let go of your infinite anger. Hades isn't an unsuitable son-in-law among the gods, but lord of the many dead, your own brother from the same seed. As for honor, he won the third share back when the division was made, and now lives among those whom he has allotted to rule. Um, And here's some more pictures of the photos that you're going to see of Hades and other people. Here's one right here. Hold on. Here's another one right here that's hold on. Let's scroll up a little bit so you can get a better picture. This is Pynax with Persephone and Hades enthroned. This is between the year 500 and 400, and it's actually at a Cleveland museum. It's actually in a museum in Cleveland, in Cleveland, Ohio. And then, oh crap, hold on. And here's another one of Hades and Persephone. That's a painting that was done back in 1864. And this is a base, red figure, volute crater with scene of the underworld, and it's supposed to be, and this is actually housed in Baltimore, Maryland. Yep, I actually do love stuff like that. That's actually a fascinating thing. Now, despite modern connotations of death as evil, Hades was actually more altruistically inclined in mythology. Hades is portrayed as a passive and never portrayed negatively, but his role, his role was often maintaining relative balance. And that, with that being said, he's depicted as cold and stern, and he held all of his subjects equally accountable to his laws. Now, any other individual aspects of his personality are not given, as Greeks refrained from giving him much thought to avoid attracting any attention to him. Now, Hades ruled the dead, assisted by others over whom he had complete authority. Now, the house of Hades was described as full of guests, although he rarely left the underworld. He cared little about what happened in the world above because, he's just down there. So as his primary attention was ensuring that none of his subjects ever left his domain. Now he strictly forbade his subjects to leave his domain and would become quite enraged when anyone tried to leave or if someone tried to steal the souls from his realm. His wrath was equally terrible for anyone who tried to cheat death or otherwise cross him, as Sisyphus and Pybrathos found out to their sorrow. Now, while usually indifferent to his subjects, Hades was very focused on the punishment of these two people because they tried to escape and cheat death. Hades was very focused on the punishment of these two people, particularly Pyruthos, as he entered the underworld in an attempt to steal Persephone for himself. And consequently, he was forced into the chair of forgetfulness. Another myth is about the Greek god Asclepius, who was originally a demigod, and he was the son of Apollo and Coronis, a Thessalian princess. Now, during his lifetime, he became famous and talented physician who eventually was able to bring the dead back to life. Now, feeling cheated, Hades persuaded Zeus to kill him with the thunderbolts. After his death, Asclepius was brought to Olympus, to where he became a god. Now, Hades was only depicted outside of the underworld once in myth, and even that is believed to have been an instance where he just left the gates of the underworld, which was seen when Heracles shot him with an arrow, and as Hades was attempting to defend the city of Pylos. Now, after he was shot with the arrow, however, he traveled to Olympus to heal. Besides Heracles, the only other living person who ventured into the underworld were also heroes like Odysseus, Ianaeus, Sibyl, Orpheus, and Hermes. And Hermes was the messenger of the gods, and he was the only one to get in and out of the underworld without being trapped. Who knows how that was able to happen? Now, Orpheus, to whom Hades showed uncharacteristic mercy at Persephone's urging, was moved by Orpheus's music, Thesis with Pyruthos, and in late romance, Psyche, or Psyche something. Now, none of them were pleased with what they witnessed in the realm of the dead, but in particular, the Greek war hero Achilles, whom Odysseus conjured with a blood libation, said, "O shining Odysseus, never try to counsel me for dying, but I would rather, or I would rather follow the plow as thrall to another man, one with no land allotted to him and not much to live on, than be a king over the perished dead." Um, Now here's a couple more photos here to look at. Um, this is a cyanary. This is a cyanary altar of a tabula representing the rape of Persephone, and it was white marble. You can't really see it, but Persephone and Hades. This was dated back to 430 to between 440 and 430 BC. And this one right here, it's kind of hard to make out, but it says a fresco showing Hades and Persephone riding in a chariot from the tomb of the queen Eurydice of Macedon at Virginia, Greece, and that was dated back in 450. This is dated back to 4th century BC. Now Hades' consort was Persephone. That was his wife that he abducted from Zeus at the urging of Zeus. Now the consort of Hades was Persephone, and she was the daughter of Zeus and Demeter. Now Persephone did not submit to Hades willingly, but she was abducted by him while picking flowers in the fields of Nyssa, while her father Zeus had previously given Persephone to Hades to be his wife, as stated in the first lines of the Homeric hymn to Demeter. In protest of this act, Demeter cast a curse on the land, and there was a great famine, though one by one the gods came to request that she lift it, lest mankind perish and cause the gods to be deprived of the receiving gifts and sacrifices. Now Demeter asserted that the earth would remain barren until she saw her daughter again. Zeus then sends for his son Hermes and instructs him to go down to the underworld in hopes that he may be able to convince Hades to allow Persephone to return to Earth, so that Demeter might see Persephone and cause the famine to stop. Now Hermes obeys and goes down to Hades' realm. Now we're in there. He finds Hades seated upon a couch, Persephone seated next to him, and Hermes relays Zeus's message, and Hades compels, saying, "Go now, Persephone, to your dark-robed mother. Go and feel kindly in your heart towards me, but be not so exceedingly cast down, for I shall be no unfitting husband for you among the deathless gods. That I am own brother to Father Zeus, and while you are here, you shall rule all that lives and moves, and shall have the greatest rights among the deathless gods. Now those who defraud you and do not appease your power with offerings, reverently performing rites and paying fit gifts, shall be punished forevermore." Now, here is an oil painting of Hades abducting Persephone. This is a property of the Missing Link Antiquities. This was painted around the 18th century. Oil on wood with a gilt background. Afterwards Hades readies his chariot, but not before he secretly gives Persephone a pomegranate seed to eat. Now Hermes takes the reins, and he and Persephone make their way to the earth above, coming to a halt in front of Demeter's temple at Eleusis, where the goddess has been waiting. Now Demeter and Persephone run towards each other, and they embrace one another, happy that they are reunited. But Demeter, however, suspects that Persephone may have eaten food while down in the underworld, and so she questions Persephone, saying, "My child, tell me, surely you have not tasted any food while you were below. Speak out and hide nothing, but let us both know. For if you have not, you shall come back from lowly Hades and live with me and your father, the dark clouded son of Kronos, and be honored by all the deathless gods. But if you have tasted food, you must go back again beneath the secret places of the earth, there to dwell a third part of the seasons every year. And yet for the 2 parts you shall be with me and the other deathless gods. But when the earth shall bloom with the fragrant flowers of spring and every kind, then from the realm of darkness and gloom Thou shalt not come up once more to be wandered for gods and mortal men. And now tell me how he rapt you away to the realm of darkness and gloom, and by what trick did the strong host of many beguile you? Um, Now Persephone does admit that she ate the food of the dead, as she tells Demeter that Hades gave her a pomegranate seed and forced her to eat it. Now Persephone's eating the pomegranate seed binds her to Hades and the underworld, much to the dismay of Demeter. Zeus, however, had previously proposed a compromise to which all parties had agreed. Of the year, Persephone would spend one third with her husband. Um, it is during this time that when Persephone is down in the underworld with her husband that winter falls upon the earth, an aspect of sadness and mourning. Here's another picture of Hades abducting Persephone. This is a fresco in the small Macedonian royal temple at Virginia, Macedonia, Greece, around 340 BC. Um, there's only been a select amount of visitors in the underworld. Now, the hero Orpheus once descended into the underworld in search of his late wife Eurydice, who died when a snake bit her. So, so lovely was the music that he played that it charmed even Hades as well as his wife Persephone, who allowed him to take Eurydice into the land of the living as long as he did not look back at her on his way out. um, Now, in another story, Theseus and Pirithous pledged to kidnap and marry daughters of Zeus. Now, Theseus chose Helen, and together they kidnapped her and decided to hold on to her until she was old enough to marry. Um, now, Pirithous chose Persephone, so they left Helen with Theseus' mother, Aethra, and traveled to the underworld. Hades knew of the plan to capture his wife, so he pretended to offer them hospitality, and he set a feast as soon as the pair sat down. Now, snakes coiled around their feet and held them there. Now, Theseus was eventually rescued by Heracles, but Pirithous was either trapped as punishment for daring to seek the wife of a god for his own, or killed by Cerberus, depending on the version of the story of what you believe. Um, um, Now, Sisyphus was a mortal king from Corinth who was punished in Tartarus for revealing to the river god Asopos the whereabouts of his daughter Aegina after Zeus abducted her. Um, and for trying to cheat death as well. Now Zeus was angry at Sisyphus for revealing that secret, and he sent Thanatos to Sisyphus, but he cleverly cast death into his own bonds. But as a result, no one could die until Ares freed Thanatos and delivered Sisyphus to him. But still, Sisyphus ordered his wife Merope not to perform any funeral rites for him and what else was accustomed as tribute to the underworld gods before he was brought to Hades. Um, Now, after some time, that Merope had not offered proper honors. Now Hades learned of this and allowed Sisyphus to return to the world of the living so that he could punish his wife, with the understanding that he would return afterwards. Um, Now Sisyphus, um, however, never returned as promised until years later when he died of old age. Now, Hades punished Sisyphus by making him making him roll a boulder up a hill in the underworld. But every time he reached the top, the boulder would roll down again and again. In another version, it is Persephone who lets him out. Here's another photo of Hades. Hades abducting Persephone, and this was a pot that was made and found in Taranto between the year of 350 and 325 BC. You can see that there. Um, Now, when it comes to Heracles, now Heracles' final labor was to capture Cerberus, and first Heracles went to Eleusis to be initiated into the Eleusinian mysteries. He did this to absolve himself of guilt for killing the centaurs and to learn how to enter and exit the underworld alive. He found the entrance to the underworld at Taenarum. Athena and Hermes helped him through and back from Hades. Now Heracles asked Hades for permission to take Cerberus. Now Hades agreed, as long as Heracles did not harm Cerberus. When Heracles dragged the dog out of Hades, he passed through the cavern Ucherusia. Now, in the myth of Admetus and Alcestis, after Alcestis, or Alcestis, I don't know how you say that, but anyway, chose to die in place of her husband Admetus in order to save him, Heracles brought her back from the dead by fighting and defeating Hades. Now in other versions, Euripides plays um, in other versions like Euripides' play Alcestis, Heracles thought Thanatos instead at another time. Heracles sieged the town of Pylos, and during this fight, he wounded Hades, who had been sided with the Pylians. In great pain, Hades went to Olympus to be healed by the physician of the gods, Paean. Um, Now, with all Greek gods, they had multiple different lovers. It wasn't just one. Now Luce was the most beautiful of the nymphs and a daughter of Oceanus. Hades fell in love with her, and he abducted her to the underworld. She lived out the span of her life in his realm, and when she died, Hades sought consolation by creating a suitable memorial of their love in the Elysian fields, where the Pylos spent their afterlife. He brought a white tree into existence. It was this tree with which Heracles crowned himself to celebrate his return from the underworld. Um, now, Minthe was a nymph of the river Cocytus, who became Hades' mistress. Now, a jealous Persephone trampled the nymph under her foot, transforming her into a garden nymph in the process. Now, according to Aeschylus on the Candor, Hades turned his dead lover into the mint herb after Persephone tore her into pieces for sleeping with him. Now, in another version, depending on what you believe, Hades had kept Mint as his mistress before he married Persephone and set her aside afterwards. Now, Minthe boasted of being more beautiful than Persephone, and that Hades would soon take her back in anger over in anger over the hubris directed towards her daughter Demeter, and then trampled Mint and turned her into a mint. In other works, now once when a plague hit Ionia, a region in Boeotia, the people consulted an oracle, and the god replied to them that they needed to make an appeal to the gods of the underworld and sacrifice 2 willing young maidens to appease the anger of Hades and Persephone. Now the girls that were chosen were Menippe and Medioc. Now the daughters of Orion, who solemnly offered their lives in order to save their countrymen. Now, after invoking these chthonic deities 3 times, they took their own lives with the shuttles of their looms. Hades and Persephone then took pity on both of them and transformed their corpses into comets. The only comet I know was Halley's Comet. Now, in some versions, Hades is considered the master of the goddess of fate, and not his brother Zeus, and the god who designates the end and origin of all things and orders the alternation of birth and destruction, the arbiter of life and death. Now, the relationship is very clear in Roman epics, like the Slatius' Thebaid, where they are mentioned taking souls to be judged by Hades and inflicting severe punishments, or in Claudian's De Rapto Proserpine, now where they appear begging their master not to release the Titans and saying everything they do is for him, after Hades threatens Zeus to release the Titans against him if he does not give him a wife. Now, Hades is considered the father of the Furies in some versions, but the mother's identity varies. In Virgil's Aeneid, their mother is the night goddess Nyx, and in the Orphic hymns, their mother is Persephone by Hades. One of the rare occasions when he appears interacting with them is in Statius' Thebaid. Now, When Hades orders Tisiphone to punish humans for having invaded the underworld, he is said to hate Alecto, even though she is one of his children. Um, in contrast, um, to many of his other classical representations, the satirical author Lucian of Samosata presents Hades in a more positive and even more comical way. Um, in the dialogues of the dead, he is represented trying to solve problems of some famous mythical figures, and one of the most outstanding dialogues is with Protosalus, who is one of the Greek heroes killed in the Trojan War. Now, in this conversation, Protosalus asks him to be reunited with his still living lover and brings up as an example that Hades did the same for Admetus and Alcetus, Orpheus and Eurydice, and that he himself knows what being in love is like, and Hades is skeptical, but Persephone manages to persuade him. Um, According to Hesiod, when the monstrous Typhon attacked the Olympian gods, Hades is said to have trembled in fear in the underworld while Zeus fought Typhon above. Um, in one of Plato's dialogues, Socrates talks about Hades as a figure capable of making everyone fall by his enchantments, and that is why no one ever leaves the underworld, including the sirens. Um, Now here you'll see Zeus sitting on the throne with his three-headed dog Cerberus. In this picture it looks like he has one. But depending on what story that you want to go with, Cerberus could either have one head or he could have three. Mainly he's depicted as having three. Now, Hades, being the god of the dead, was a fearsome figure to those still living, and no hurry to meet him. They were reluctant to swear oaths in his name, and they averted their faces when sacrificing to him. But since too many simply to say the word Hades was frightening, euphemisms were pressed into use. Since precious minerals came from under the earth, i.e., the underworld, by Hades, he was considered to have control over these as well, and as such, the Greeks referred to him as Pluton, or Pluto, meaning the rich one. Um, um, now the title is derived from the word Plutos. In ancient Greek, means wealth and riches. But Sophocles explained the notion of referring to Hades as Pluton with these words: "The gloomy Hades enriches himself with our sighs and our tears." But in addition, he was called Clymenus, meaning infamous. Also, he was also referred to as Polydegmon, and perhaps Ubulus, meaning good counsel. All of these euphemisms for a name that was unsafe to pronounce, which evolved into epithets. Now he spent most of his time in his dark realm, never really leaving unless he really wanted to. Um, he spent most of his time in his dark realm, formidable in battle. He proved his ferocity in the famous Titanocemy, the battle of the Olympians versus the Titans, which established the role of Zeus. He was feared and loathed. Hades embodied the inexorable finality of death. I don't know what the golden ratio is. Why do we loathe Hades more than any god, if not because he is so adamantine and unyielding? Now the rhetorical question is Agamemnon's. Hades is not, however, an evil god, although he is stern, cruel, and pitying. He is still just. But Hades ruled the underworld and was therefore most often associated with death and feared by men, but he was not death himself. It is Thanatos, the son of Nyx and Erebus, who is the actual personification of death. Although Euripides' play Alcestis states fairly clearly that Thanatos and Hades were one and the same deity, and gives an interesting description of Hades as being dark, cloaked, and winged. Um, but moreover, Hades was also referred to as Hesperos Theos, which is god of death and darkness. Um, Now, when the Greeks um, propitiated Hades, they banged their hands on the ground to be sure he would hear them. Now, black animals, um, such as sheep, were sacrificed to him, while some suggest the very vehemence of the rejection of human sacrifice expressed in myth, and it might imply an unspoken memory of some distant past. Now, there is no direct evidence of such a turn, but the blood from all sacrifices, including those okay, that would be a good thing to look into. Um, now, now on the now so but there's no direct evidence of a turn, but the blood from all sacrifices, including those who sacrificed to Hades, dripped into a pit or cleft into the ground. The person who offered the sacrifice had to avert their face, or they couldn't look at his face, basically. Um, Now, one ancient source says that he possessed the cap of invisibility. Um, Basically, in Greek mythology, Athena had a daughter, Annabeth, and basically, if you put the cap over your head, it was almost like an invisibility cloak. Throw it over your head, throw it over your body, and you would disappear, and nobody could see you. Um, Now, so one ancient source says that he possessed a cap of invisibility. His chariot drawn by 4 black horses, made for a fearsome and impressive sight. Now, these beasts were variously named as according to Claudian, Orpheus, Atheon, Nyctius, and Alastor, while all other authors listed Nonius, Emathius, Abaster, and Methius. Now, his other ordinary attributes were the narcissus and cypress plants. Now the key for Hades, the key of Hades and Cerberus, the three-headed dog. In certain portraits, snakes also appeared to be attributed to Hades. Now, as he was occasionally portrayed to be either holding them or accompanied by them. Now, this is believed to hold significance as in certain classical sources. Um, yep. Um, Now, as he was occasionally, because it's rumored that Hades also was acquainted with snakes. Um, Now, this is believed to hold significance as certain classical sources. Hades ravished Kor in the guise of a snake, who went on to give birth to Dionysus, while bearing the name Zeus. Zeus Olympios, the great king of the gods, noticeably differs from the Zeus Malachios, a decidedly Chthonian character often portrayed as a snake. And as seen beforehand, they cannot be different manifestations of the same god. Um, in fact, whenever another Zeus is mentioned, this always refers to Hades. Zeus Malachios and Zeus Abolus are often referred to as being alternate names for Hades. Um, Now, the philosopher Heraclitus, unifying opposites, declared that Hades and Dionysus, the very essence of indestructible life, are the same god. Among other evidence, Karl Kirani notes in his book that the Homeric hymn to Demeter, motive, marble images, and epithets are also link Hades to being Dionysus. He also notes that the grieving goddess Demeter refused to drink wine, as she states that it would be against Themis for her to drink wine, which is the gift of Dionysus after Persephone's abduction, and because of the association, indicating that Hades may in fact have been a cover name for the underworld Dionysus. Now he suggests that his dual identity may have been familiar to those who came into contact with the mysteries. Dionysus also showed several epithets with Hades, such as Chthonius, meaning the subterranean, and Ubulus, meaning good counselor, and Euclesius means glorious or renowned. The evidence for our cult connection is quite extensive, but particularly in southern Italy, especially when considering the death symbolism included in Dionysian worship. Statues of Dionysus found in the Plutonian and Eleusis gives further evidence as the statue bears a striking resemblance to the statue of the Ubulus, also known as the youthful depiction of the Lord of the Underworld. Now the statue of Ubulus is described as being radiant, but disclosing a strange inner darkness. Now here's a bust of Ubulus in the National Museum of Athens, Greece. Now both Hades and Dionysus were associated with a divine tripartite deity with Zeus. Now the Orphics, in particular, believed that Zeus and Hades were the same deity, and they betrayed them as such. Now this nature and the aspect of Hades that is displayed in the Orphic stories is the explanation as to why and for why both and explain to her. Okay, so in the Orphic stories, this is the explanation as for why both Hades and Zeus are considered to be the father of the Orphic Dionysus Zagreus. Orphics also describe Zagreus as the son of Hades, while also regarding Zagreus as an aspect of Dionysus. The role of unifying Hades, Zeus, and Dionysus, our single tripartite god, was also used to represent the birth, death, and resurrection of a deity, and to unify the shining realm of Zeus and the dark realm of Hades that lay beneath the earth. Now, among other appellations under which Hades or Pluto is generally known are in the following. In Greek, Odysseus, which is Latin, and it means expressive of the grace. Agalestus, which is it's for meaning melancholy countenance. Agacellus, expressive of his attracting all people to his empire. Agitus or Hagatus, a name assigned to him by Pindar as to one who conducts. Idanus, as used by Plutarch, is a euphemism version of the story of Perseus' failed abduction of Persephone, in which the god is recast as king of the Molossians. Axioceras, or the Shorn god, a name of Pluto in the mysteries of the Cabiri. He was there represented as without hair. Io, his name, which is the name given to him at Clarus, a town of Ionia. Moribergetus, meaning name as guide of the fates. Ophius, his name as the blind god among the Messenians. It was derived from the dedicated certain augurs to him, in which they deprived them of a sight at the moment of their birth. This is Etruscan altor, from alo, to nourish. Febris, from February, signifying the sacrifices and purifications adopted to funeral rites. Ferellus Deus, the dismal or cruel god. Lactum, the name that was given to him from the Samaritans. Larthi, Tyrol, sovereign of Tartarus, his name given to him by Etruria. Then it goes on and on and on, and there's a lot of those. Now, Hades was depicted infrequently in a lot of artwork, just like almost every Greek god was, as well as mythology, because the Greeks were so afraid of him. His artistic representations, which are generally found in archaic pottery, are not even concretely thought of as the deity. However, at this point in time, it is heavily believed that the figures illustrated are indeed Hades in itself. Um, he was later presented in the classical art in the depictions of the rape of Persephone. Now, within these illustrations, Hades was often young, yet he was also shown as varying ages in other works. Um, um, Hades. We're talking about the Hades, and Hades is the Greek god of the underworld. Um, now within these illustrations, Hades was often young, yet he was also shown as being a lot older in varying works. Um, Now, due to his lack of depictions, there were not very strict guidelines when representing the deity. Um, no, Hades. You can find this on Wikipedia. I'm reading Wikipedia. If you type in Wikipedia Hades, you can find a picture or like a statue of him, and click on it. It gives you a whole description of Greek mythology. Um, we talked about Poseidon last week, along with Zeus and Cerberus. Um, and now we're working our way through Hades. Um, Now, on pottery, Hades has a dark beard and is presented as a stately figure on an ebony throne. Um, his attributes in art include his bident, which is less commonly a scepter, a helm, cornucopias, roosters, and a key. The key plays a doubly symbolic role in that it represents his control over the underworld and acts as a reminder that the gates of the underworld were always locked so that souls could not leave. Even if the doors were open, Cerberus the Three-Headed Dog Guard of the underworld ensured that while all souls were allowed to enter into the underworld freely, none could ever escape. Um, Now, Cerberus is a very integral symbol for Hades, so that when Cerberus is depicted, the depiction very rarely portrays him without Hades, and sometimes artists painted Hades as looking away from other gods, as he was disliked by them as well as humans. Um, Now, as Pluto has stated, he was regarded in a more positive light, and he holds a cornucopia representing the gifts that he bestows upon people, as well as fertility, which he becomes connected to. Um, um, in older Greek myths, the realm of Hades is also misty and gloomy. The Adobe of the dead, also called Erebus, where all mortals go when they die. Very few mortals could leave Hades once they entered, but the exceptions, Heracles and Theseus, are heroic. Now even Odysseus, in his Nicaea Odyssey, calls up the spirits of the departed rather than descend to them. Now later in Greek philosophy, it introduced the idea that all mortals are judged after death and are either rewarded or cursed. Yes, and there's a lot of unpopular Greek mythologies, depending. Now Hades is not well liked because he's the god of the underworld and people fear him. Um, so now there were several sections of the realm of Hades, including Elysium, the asphodel metals, and Tartarus. Um, Now the mythographer Apollodorus describes Tartarus as a gloomy place in Hades, as far as distant from Earth. Now as Earth is distant from the sky. Um, Greek mythographers were not perfectly consistent about the geography of the afterlife. But a contrasting myth of the afterlife concerns the gardens of the Hesperides, often identified with the Isles of the Blessed, where the blessed heroes may dwell. Um, and you also got Roman mythology too, and we can also move on later on after I complete the whole Greek mythology. You also got Roman mythology, um, and you also got Egyptian mythology too. We could work our way through all of that. Um, in Roman mythology, the entrance to the underworld is located at Avernus, a crater near Cumae. Was the route Aeneas used to descend into the realm of the dead. By Synodoc, Avernus could be substituted for the underworld as a whole, but the Die Infernae were a collective of underworld. Yeah, that is true. Now, for Helenus, the deceased entered the underworld by crossing the river Styx, ferried across by Chiron. Um, yeah. Now, for Helenus, the deceased entered the underworld by crossing the river Styx, ferried across by Chiron, who was the ferryman of the underworld. Um, who charged an obelisk, a small coin for passage placed in the mouth of the deceased by pious relatives. Now, paupers and the friendless gathered for 100 years on the near shore, according to Book 6 of Virgil's Aeneid. Um, Greeks offered pro 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 whatever you call it. They offered libations to prevent the deceased from returning to the upper world to haunt those who had not given them a proper burial. The far side of the river was guarded by Cerberus, the three-headed the dog defeated by Heracles. Passing beyond Cerberus, the shades of the departed entered the land of the dead to be judged. Now, the five rivers of the realm of Hades are their symbolic meanings are Archeron, which is Acheron, the river of sorrow. Yep. Um, so Acheron means the river of sorrow or woe. Cositis meaning lamentation. Um, and then there's one that's named after fire, called Pylagathon, which means fire. Lethe means oblivion, and Styx means hate. The river upon which even the gods swore, and in which Achilles was dipped into to render him invincible. But the Styx forms the boundary between the upper and lower worlds. See also Eridanos. Um, the first region of Hades compromises the fields of Asphodel, described in the Odyssey, where the shades of heroes wander despondently among lesser spirits. Um, Now, they twitter around them like bats, but only libations of blood offered to them in the world of the living can reawaken in them for a time the sensations of humanity. Um, now, beyond beyond lay Erebus, which could be taken for a euphonym of Hades, whose own name means dread. Um, Now there were two poles, that of Lethe, where the common souls flocked to erase all their memory, and the pole of Namasine, meaning memory, where the and where the initiates of the mysteries drank instead in the forefront and the forecourt of the palace of Hades, and Persephone can sit the three judges of the underworld, Minos, Ramathenas, and Asius. Yep. Um, now, now, now they're at the Trivium. They sacred to Hecate, Hecate, where the three worlds meet. The souls are judged. and they will return to the fields of Asphodel if they are neither virtuous nor evil, and sent by the road to Tartarus if they are imperious or evil, or they are sent to Elysium, islands of the blessed with the blameless heroes. Um, in the Sibylline oracles, a curious hodgepodge of Greco-Roman and Judeo-Christian elements, Hades again appears as the Adobe of the dead, and by the way of folk etymology, it even derives Hades from the name Adam, the first man, saying it is because he was the first person to enter there. Owing to its appearance in the New Testament of the Bible, Hades also has a distinct meaning in Christianity. Um, I guess I have to leave this open because there is some other stuff on here I do want to talk about down the line. Um, there's also Hades in popular culture. Um, there are a couple movies that are made where he's depicted in. Um, okay, so here there are some, like I said, there are some movies that are made about him. So Hades, under his Roman name Pluto, appears in a Pasolini film called The Canterbury Tales. Canterbury Tales. In the Canterbury um I like to read about Greek mythology, so it's like basically people are interested about Greek mythology, and for me, I like to portray like what I like of like what I read. Um, so there's many movies about Hades. Um, he was featured in the Canterbury Tales. He was also featured in Percy Jackson's the Percy Jackson film, The Lightning Thief, and whatever other movies that they've made about. So in Canterbury Tales, he's portrayed by Italian actor Giuseppe Arrigio. Um, there's also something called The Merchant's Tale. Now the film Heracles is more. Now the film Heracles is Yes, that's exactly the reasoning. Um, I like to do these videos so that people who do come across will understand a better knowledge of Greek mythology. Um, so there was a 1997 movie called Heracles, and Hades appears as the main antagonist, unlike the mythical Hades. Um, Now in this version, um, Hades is a fast-talking, hot-tempered evil deity who's a combination of Satan and a dodgy Hollywood agent. He plans to overthrow Zeus and rule the universe, but kill Heracles before that, so the hero doesn't foil his plot. However, he failed and was trapped in the river Styx. In the movie Heracles, James Wood voiced Hades. Didn't even remember that. I remember the movie, but I don't remember James Woods doing the voice. There's also made for TV shows and made for TV movies. In the 3 television series, Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, like Xena, Warrior Princess, and Young Heracles, Hades is a recurring character who is played by Eric Thompson. Although, yeah, so and most frequently played by Eric Thompson, although Mark Ferguson and Stephen Lovat also played the part, but he was depicted as being overworked and understaffed. In the DC Comics TV series Smallville, the powerful and demonic deity Darkseid was an Earth's history by many names such as Hades and Lucifer, and was connected to the Hindu goddess Kali. Um, Hades appears in the remake of Clash of the Titans and its sequel Wrath of the Titans, where he's played by Ralph Fiennes. Um, now, Hades appears in the 2010 movie Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief, and he was played by Steve Coogan. Um, in the Percy Jackson and the Olympians TV show on Disney Plus, Hades appears in the first season. And is portrayed by actor J. Duplass. Now that is the ending of this of Hades. Next week we will be back, and I'll give you some stuff that I want to talk about. So next week we can go on about mythological creatures in the Greek mythology, or we can go to Achilles next week. I don't know which one you guys want. Or we can also do Minotaur, 12 Olympians, Werewolf, or Dracula. Um, those are the ones I have on hold that people might be interested in for next week. So we have reached the ending of Hades. But I want to know your guys' idea. Who do you think will be more terrifying in mythology? Would you consider Zeus, Poseidon, or Hades more terrifying? Um, um, so Steve Taylor says Zeus. Okay. Now, what's your reasoning for why Zeus would be more terrifying than Hades or Poseidon? I consider Hades to be more terrifying to me because he's the god of the underworld, and if you die and go down there, you can't escape what he sets on you. That see to me Hades would be the more terrifying one. Or we can also do the ferryman Chiron. Let's go here. Now, what about Chiron? Would you consider him to be scary because he's the ferryman of the underworld, who takes the dead people into the underworld on a boat? I could probably put that one up there too. Um, yes, Zeus because he can make it rain and he can make it lightning. That would be understandable. Um, let's Also, I keep track of my analytics too. I'm looking at analytics on my computer to see how many subscribers I get. Um, starting next month, I'm going to college, so I won't have a whole lot of videos out. Um, my only off days from college will be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for 2 months. Um, so starting March 17th until like May 8th, I'm gonna. I think it's May. I think my last college course will be May 8th. Uh, that that I'm going back and forth to college, and so I'm gonna have a busy schedule. So like when I get up for work in the morning, I only work Monday through Friday. Yep. But next month I'm starting. So in about a month I'm starting college. So I'm gonna be I have to work around my schedule for my job and school to find out when I can post videos. Mainly, and I might have to cut it back until like Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, and just have those 3 days to try to post a video when I can. Um, oh, here we go. I just picked up 2 subscribers on the channel today. Now I was at 151 earlier. Now I'm up to 153. My other channel, um, which is RBW King, has 457, and that's more centered on UPS videos because I work for UPS. Um, I'm trying to advance my career through UPS. So we're trying to do that. So see, that depends on that. See, I see. For me, that would depend because it's how you all look at the characters. Um, some people portray Hades as evil, and others portray him as nice. Um, that's all based on how you look at it. Yeah, but that is the ending for Hades. We're gonna close that story out. Yeah, I gotta pull that up. Hold on here. The golden ratio. Let's see if I can pull this up on the computer. No, I'm on YouTube right now. I'm just typing it in. But golden ratio. Um, well, they do have a Wikipedia page on it, but yeah. But let's see what we can find. Okay. Okay. Now we're up to 154. This page does refresh. And now it's up to 155. Oh, damn. Okay. That's not a bad thing. Tell me next. Tell me what video you want me to do next week, and we'll get to that. And I have to write it down once you guys tell me. Yeah. Golden ratio. Oh crap, misspelled it. Next week the options will be what we're going to talk about is either mythical creatures, Achilles, the Minotaur, or you got the 12 Olympians, werewolf, Dracula, or Chiron, the ferryman of the dead. Okay, we can do that too. The golden ratio of okay, so we can coordinate the 1618, the golden ratio thing, and the mythical creatures into the thing. Okay, so we can do that. I have to look and see how my schedule is next week. Now, since Steve, you're the one talking about this I just pulled it up. Let's see if it's right. It's called, was it Golden Ratio 16.8? Yeah, okay, Golden Ratio. I'm trying to find it on here. I might have mistyped it, but let me see. Because I'm not familiar with all this golden ratio stuff. Okay, okay, so it'll be 1.618. So what do we got here? Okay, so what am I looking for here? There's Mysteries of Mecca, Golden Ratio 1.618. That's a full version of the video. Then you got the Golden Ratio, God, Creator of Heaven and Earth. Okay, part 1. Okay, they got one that says part 1, part 2, and part 3. Okay. Okay, I just put part 1 in there, but I don't know what I'm looking for. I'm not sure what the video is supposed to look like, or what I'm supposed to be looking at. Okay, here's the golden section of the ratio 1.618 divine proportion, sacred geometry, black holes. I don't know if that's one of them. Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm looking at here because I've never heard of that one. But yeah. So Steve says he wants me to talk about mythical creatures next week. We'll get that put out there. Yeah. A green design. Let's see. A green design. I'm like, you'd have to make it. See, I would have to see a picture, so that's because I wouldn't know for sure. Let's go back. I would actually yeah, there's a whole bunch of videos I just found on it. I have to save that for later, but at least I'll get an idea. I just found one by Beat and Kinney, but some of these videos are long, some of them are short videos. But yeah, okay. Yep, so at least that'll be something to learn. So Steve, you said you want me to do the mythical creatures next week, to talk about that for my next live stream video, and I'll look into the golden ratio of 1.618. Okay, let's go type that in if he's the one that does the videos on that. Kill. Let's see if I can pull this up here. Okay, I'm still not finding that particular version. Maybe, let me see. They have something called Killuminati the movie, but that's based on this, but I don't know. But like I said, I have to just go. Yeah, I got that. It says kill. Cumanate. Or something like that. Cumanate. Nathif. I don't know how you say that name, but yeah. But obviously, I'm not finding the channel. Some areas might just have it blocked in certain areas. But yeah. So we're gonna do mythical creatures next week, and then, like I said, in next month I'm starting college, so I'm gonna be having a busy schedule. Like basically after I get off of work, I'm going straight to college and doing my classes. So like it's gonna be a long journey for me to have to do all this stuff, but at least we're getting good with that. There is a refresh page on here. Okay, that's not too bad, okay. Yep. That's why I do a lot. That's why I do a lot of videos on Greek mythology, because the more you learn, the more fascinating the stories are. And who knew that such things can be fascinating in itself. High Energy Ape, thanks for joining, even though I'm going to be leaving in a minute here. I'm going to get back to doing a couple things. But thanks everybody for joining and commenting. The commenting helps out the algorithm. Also, if you're just new to my channel, hit the like and subscribe button for more videos like this if you like Greek mythology. Yep, I have too. But if you like the video, give the video a like and subscribe for more videos like this. We're gonna do mythical creatures next week. By the suggestion of Steve. So just keep an open mind when I'm doing my videos. Because you never know what you're gonna learn each day. So make sure. And also, if you also, I do have a Patreon channel. If you want to donate to the channel to help out for further causes, you can donate to the Patreon link for more videos like this. And thanks for listening.